Hey guys, how's it going? Matt Burnett with Allegiant Canine. I wanted to hop on here really quick because I've been getting some questions from all of our rescue partners about why it's important to crate your dog while they're unsupervised, okay? There's actually like 10,000 reasons why you'd probably want to crate your dog. But the main reason is that you're trying to reduce the rehearsal of bad behaviors or unwanted behaviors within a space that you're trying to protect, whether it's because you have a nice collection of Star Wars toys or because you have just moved into a new apartment, right? It doesn't really matter why you're trying to protect it. It matters that you're trying to protect it, and the crate is a really good way to do that. I've had clients that because their dog was crate trained, they've saved thousands of dollars in boarding, going to family trips, by just bringing the dog with them and putting them in the crate when they're gone. I've had clients that this tool literally kept their dogs from killing each other when there was a fight, and it allowed them to reintroduce their dogs at a slow pace in their own time as they started to get acclimated to each other again. So there's 1,000 reasons why you might do it, but the main reason that we crate dogs is to protect our space, to protect our sanity, to protect our peace, all right? You're gonna have a lot better peace of mind if you know that your dog is at peace in the crate, in their own environment. So we're gonna talk a little bit about how to actually do that appropriately in a way that the dog starts to see that as their own little quiet space that they can decompress and that they can rest, okay? So I'm gonna introduce you to Jack and Wyatt, who are my own personal dogs. This is a very weird thing for them because they're not used to me pointing a camera at them and talking. So I'm gonna show you a little bit about how I get the dog into the crate in different phases, and then also how I keep them in the crate and how I keep them from busting out of the crate too, all right? Because I don't want this immediate like burst out of the crate. I want it to be a nice, boring, okay, all right, coming out, instead of a reflexive explosion outside the crate. Just like at the front door, I used to use brake as a marker so that they would skid out the front door. Now I just go, let's go, and I start walking with them. So a couple of different things that have helped with the arousal as I'm giving that release, okay? So again, I'm gonna walk you through how I train the dog in different phases to go into the crate, when I start to word associate the word crate or kennel, and then also common mistakes that people make that end up creating conflict and create kind of an opposition to the crate, okay? Probably the biggest thing that I see is a client will just say the word crate and they'll say it over and over and over and over again, and ad nauseum, and the dog will go, I don't want to go in there, so I'm not gonna go in there, and you can't make me go in there. So it immediately turns on. If you use a command that the dog doesn't know the application to it, they don't know the behavior that's associated, or they don't know that there's a reason, a firm enough reason that they need to actually do it, guess what? They're probably gonna create a little bit of an opposition reflex, okay? Which happens all the time. I'll attach a video in here of me saying crate just as a test to say crate and seeing what my boys do, and they went the exact opposite way. They're like, we don't want to go in there. So as you go through this process, it's very important to realize, where are we in the process? Are we in the acquisition phase where we're still acquiring the behavior of consistently doing it based on a cue? Are we in the fluency phase where we're still learning what that actual sound means when I say crate, that it means to do this behavior? Or are we in that adaptation and generalization phase where we're learning that it is urgent and important that you continue to stay in the crate as long as I don't release you? So you need to do it quickly, and you have to keep doing it until I release you from it, no matter the context, no matter your state of mind, okay? So all of this comes down to just basic dog training. So the first thing that we have to hit is acquisition. How do I actually get the dog in the crate, okay? A lot of trainers will say, don't associate a word to something before the dog consistently does the behavior, okay? Which makes sense, okay? They've taken it another step and said, don't word associate until the dog loves doing it. And I'm gonna use loves very, very loosely. What I mean by loves is that they do it with clarity and speed, and they consistently offer it, okay? They don't have to love it, right? Like, my dogs want to be with me as much as they can, but it should be pretty clear to me that they know exactly what I'm asking them to do, okay? So that's what I'm gonna use as my loves, okay? The caveat to that is that if you have a leash attached to the dog, you can say the command and then make them do it. All right, again, that gets back to the whole pressure thing. I can make a dog do pretty much anything with the leash. I can increase that behavior by removing the comfort of saying, like, no, I'm gonna make this uncomfortable until you do it, right? So that's a little caveat there. I try not to build behaviors with that framework in mind, just because it can create a situation where the dog's not thinking for themselves, where they don't really have much agency. I want the dog to go, all right, yeah, cool, I'll do it. You know, I respect you, I love you, I know I'm gonna get paid for it, all the different motivations. So ultimately, when it comes down to it, I feel like if you're just saying crate and then just sitting there staring at the dog and then waiting for a few seconds and saying crate again, stop doing that, okay? All you need to do is you need to create a situation where it is either motivating and beneficial for the dog to go into the crate on their own, or that they can't do anything else, all right? And that is by either using food or some sort of reward, or by attaching a leash, okay? I'm gonna show you both ways, so that way you know how to do it with motivation, and you also can do it with compulsion if necessary. And what you'll realize is that if you use pressure and actually using the leash can also be considered prevention as well, because you're keeping the dog from going somewhere else. It's keeping them from eloping so that you can stay engaged in the exercise. And then the pressure ends up becoming spatial, and it ends up becoming social, and it ends up becoming based on the respect that they have for you, instead of just kind of trying to use leash pressure to keep them in the space. All right, so I'm gonna show you how to do this through motivation, and I'm also gonna show you how to do it through compulsion or leash pressure, okay? All right, guys, so before we get into this, before I explain anything about the crate, I wanna just talk about dog behavior, okay? So you've probably seen this before. If you have, forgive me, I'm gonna show you again. This is the 4 conditions of dog training, okay? A lot of people like to call them the operant conditions. I'm just gonna call them the 4 conditions. It sounds better. All right, so there are things that we can do to increase behaviors in dogs, and there are things that we can do to decrease behavior in dogs, all right? We can add things, and we can take things away, right? So what that means is we need to be able to identify when we're trying to decrease a behavior, like barking in the crate, for example, what are some options, some go-tos that we can add and take away in order to minimize the barking inside the crate, just as an example, okay? So things that we are adding to the equation to increase a behavior are called payments, all right? Things that we take away and then we can release back to the dog again, that would be pressure and release. So I can totally pressure the dog into a sit. I can pressure the dog into the crate just using some light leash pressure, okay? So that's removal of comfort for a moment, or removal of the pressure as a release to the dog, okay? The third one here is prevention, and that's what we're going to talk a lot about today. All that prevention is removing access or ability to rehearse a behavior to decrease the likelihood of it over time. And when I say over time, that could be 5 minutes and it could be 5 weeks. It just depends on what the behavior is and what method of prevention that we're using, okay? The last one is punishment. The big bad P word. All right? So in punishment, we're adding a correction, we're adding an interruption in thought process to decrease the likelihood of the dog offering that behavior again, okay? So in each of these little quadrants here, we're either adding something or we're taking something away to increase a behavior or to decrease it. Crating, containing, and leashing your dog falls in the prevention category. Why is that? That is because prevention is going to limit your dog from rehearsing a behavior over and over again and getting better at it, right? Because when they practice it, they're gonna probably get better at it, right? But these are all things that we have to think about. Obviously, when we go outside to keep a dog from running away, we clip a leash onto that dog, right? Or else the dog's gonna take off, they're gonna get hit by a car, okay? That's the problem right now that we're facing in this society, especially in the rural South, but probably a lot of other places too, is that people are not containing their dogs, they're not leashing their dogs, so they're rehearsing these behaviors of eloping and running off and wandering, and that's a problem, not only for the dog's health and safety, but for the health and safety of the community, all right? So in this video, I want to touch on how exactly we use all 4 of these operant conditions here in order to maximize that theme of prevention. So I don't know about you guys, but during COVID, you started to see this flip from having a good probably maybe 3 or 4 hours at home with the dog at night to where now you have most of your time at home with the dog during the day. The problem with that is then we saw this huge preponderance of separation anxiety, resource guarding, reactivity, dog-on-dog aggression, dog-on-child aggression, because the rehearsal of these behaviors was not being curtailed. So what I want you to remember is that structure, proactive structure for the dog is helpful for them. If your dog has a behavioral issue where they have put damage on another dog or on a person, then it is totally fine to, any time that the dog is not directly supervised, for maybe a 30-day period, to crate that dog anytime that they cannot be directly supervised. Why do you ask? Because you do not want that dog to develop the concept in their mind that they are the one who is supposed to protect and preserve that home. You want them to understand, hey buddy, this is your space over here. I'm not gonna go in there, all right? But when you throw your voice outside that crate, there has to be a consequence, okay? So when we're crate training dogs, a lot of the, a lot of the need, I guess, for a trainer to step in is, what do I do when the dog starts to bark and howl and whine and claw at the crate and all of that stuff? And the reality is, you can actually knock out a bunch of these issues very, very quickly with that bottom quadrant of punishment, okay? And by punishment, I don't mean doing something that's painful for the dog. I just mean an interruption in thought process. So when the dog starts to bark like crazy in the crate, the only thing I do is very calmly walk over to the crate and I say, quiet, and I might give a little tap on the bottom of the crate. That was pretty loud because this is a very large metal crate and it's empty. So the idea there being that it is an interruption in thought process that allows the dog the opportunity to say, I'm gonna choose something else. And what do they choose? They should have something inside the crate that they can take that stress and anxiety out on. And that is why I recommend a Benebone inside the crate. Nylabones tend to be a little bit too soft for my liking. The dogs typically try to chew off one of the little nubs on the side. So I like a Benebone. because once that correction is given, you can immediately see the dog go, and they'll go and they'll chew on that bone instead of barking, barking, barking. So what that does is it teaches them a coping mechanism that's healthy, that's stress relieving, and that makes sense for that particular disobedience, okay? So it's important to make sure that we're managing some of that behavior as we start to acclimate a dog to the crate. The reason that I share that before I teach how to get in the crate and to come out of the crate is I want your mindset to be the opposite of codependence. All right, what is codependence? Codependence is doing things because you're gonna make your dog feel a certain way, all right? Or thinking that you're gonna make your dog feel a certain way. Maybe a little bit of projection in there as well. So I make it very simple for my clients because in reality, our dogs are a huge part of our lives emotionally, but they shouldn't take up all of our time, all right? And I love my dogs to pieces. They're freaking amazing. I love them. I only spend probably in actual training between both dogs that are with me, maybe 30 minutes a day, maybe. I mean, it may be 10 some days. When we're out on the walk, every moment is a training opportunity, but it doesn't mean that they're always walking right in heel, okay? So the reason that I want to share that is I want you to release this concept of having to constantly put in all these inputs nonstop with your dog. It doesn't have to be an hour, 2 hours of training per day, okay? If you ask a competitor in dog sports how much they train per day, it's probably a couple 5 to 15 minute sessions, and that's it. It's more about the consistency than it is about these massive blocks of time, which is even why when I am doing a board and train, those dogs need time to rest. They need time to decompress. They need time for their brain to heal, which allows them better retention. So even in my private lessons, I might session the dog for 5 minutes, and then we take a break and we talk to the owner about why this is important, and then they do it. And then we do a different section, and then we give them a rest, and I talk to the owner, and then they do it, all right? So little pockets of time are extremely, extremely valuable. One of our rescue partners had a question about how to train their dog to go into the crate, how to get them acclimated and everything. And just so you know, it's very normal that a dog would resist and want to bark a little bit whenever you put them in the crate for the first time, okay? I have 2 dogs with me, and guess what? While they're not being directly supervised, they're in the crate because this is a brand new space. I don't own it. So I want to make sure that they're not rehearsing those behaviors of getting into things. Depending on what your situation is, you might be crating your dog for more than another person. I don't want you to develop this guilt complex about putting the dog in the crate and, oh, they've been in there too long or whatever. That being said, I typically go off of the rule of at the very least, at meal times, you should be letting the dog out to go potty for a little play session, for some training. And then if you need to put him back in there and go back to work, or put him back in there and run some errands or whatever, do that. That's fine. The worst thing that you could possibly do is put your dog in the crate and then sit there and think about it the whole time. All right. And I have clients that they have put security cameras facing the crate just so that they can see if the dog is whining or not. Here's a problem with that, is that those security cameras make noise. Even if there's no moving function on the camera, when that lens opens, it makes a noise. The dog sees or hears that lens open and they go, "What is that? That's bizarre." And then you talk through the camera. That's a problem because you're creating the essence of you without the reality of you. And the whole point of them being in the crate is to be alone. It's to allow them to decompress and a little bit of isolation. It's very, very healthy. So my biggest concern is you. You as the parent, freedom, fun, food, friends, all of those resources are things that you can maximize as training opportunities. But if you don't isolate for a second and keep you isolated from the dog, then what happens is they develop an addiction to you. And that's not good, because then you have behaviors like, okay, now I'm busting out of the crate just to get to you, okay? So a couple different things too that might help is, as you're trying to get a dog acclimated to the crate, if they're starting to dig out a little bit or mess with the crate bottom, Amazon, you could go to Walmart and get a probably a $60 crate for your dog, and buy a metal bottom for that from Amazon for $55. Like they're not super expensive, and it basically makes that crate indestructible. You might throw a couple of zip ties on it or something like that, but the first thing that you have to have, especially if you have a dog with separation anxiety, is a crate that the dog cannot get out of. So that being said, when you go out and you want to spend money on the crate, there's two things that you need to think about. How much space does my dog actually need, and how big are they going to get eventually, okay? So for Jack, he's my little Chihuahua. He's like 10, 15 pounds. I only have like an 18-inch crate for him. It's literally the length of my elbow to my pointer finger, okay? Actually, it may be a 24, I'm not sure. Wyatt is my heeler, and he's a little active. He likes to kind of bounce around a little bit in the kennel, but I don't want him rehearsing that. I don't want him constantly bouncing around and making noise in the kennel. And so I'm going to show you those here in just a second. And what I want you to keep in mind is that when they're in there, they need enough space to go in, turn around, stretch, and lay back down again. That's it. They don't need room to where they can do zoomies inside their crate, all right? They should have enough room. I usually suggest an inch or two on all sides of extra space, and that's it. For puppies, the reason that this is important is because we don't want them pooping or peeing in the corner over here and then being able to retreat from it. So if you know that you bought or adopted a Great Dane puppy, they're gonna get pretty big, right? Right now they're not though. So you need to use that divider that came with the crate, and you need to sanction off an area for the dog that they are trustworthy within, okay? A lot of people will ask, and you know, crate training also gets into potty training a lot of times. So you kind of have to ask yourself, how frequently do I need to let this dog out of the crate? And for puppies, I usually do an hour for every month old they are. So if they're 2 months old, then 2 hours max in the crate. And then I can let them out to potty. If they don't pee and poop when I let them out, they go right back into the crate again after we're finished, okay? So if you have enough time that you can let them out to go pee and poop, then they can have some free time in like a little exercise pen or sanctioned off behind some gates. Again, all of this is about structure and being proactive about prevention, okay? So we're gonna touch on some different things as we go. So as you're potty training a puppy, the crate is a huge part of that, because if you're not limiting the amount of space that your dog has, then what's gonna happen is they're gonna go, hey, there's this really nice landing up on my steps here that I can now climb up those steps, and I'm in a totally different environment up here. And so what happens is a lot of clients will tell me that's the first place that their dog goes to take a nice big steaming pile of poop. Not cool, right? I don't let my dogs tell me what to do for pretty much anything. So if I want to know that, let's say it's 11 o'clock in the morning right now, if I let my dogs out at 9 o'clock, I know that in general I'm gonna need to let them out again around lunchtime. Not hard for me, right? But if it's sooner than that, then you need to set a timer so that you get your dog on a schedule instead of having to wait for them to tell you when they need to go potty. All right? That's a problem. You're waiting for the dog. People say, should I get bells? Should I get a button? But the dog still is telling you what to do. All right? Instead, you create a schedule and you stick to it. And the dog gets used to the muscle memory of, I tend to go out every 45 minutes. So every 45 minutes, guess what? I go to the door. So as you relax your structure a little bit, then your dog is going, hey bro, I gotta go right now, okay? So we talked a little bit about the mentality behind why we create prevention of behaviors, potty training, separation anxiety, the psychology behind it, and the utilitarian use of the crate. Let's talk a little bit about how you do it, okay? How you actually go about getting the dog inside the crate. If you own a puppy that is less than 20 pounds or less than 30, I would say, you should be able to pick that dog up and put them in the crate and close the door, okay? If you can't do that because of codependence or whatever, you need to release that. Okay, I can't help you there. But if your dog is a small dog, you should be able to pick them up and put them in the crate at the very least, okay? If not, all you need to do is take a small handful of kibble, probably 6 or 8 pieces, and you need to start associating that when I say crate and I throw this kibble inside there, that you go in and I close the door behind you. Now, can you go through a process of doing that and training the dog to go in the crate on command? Totally, that's fine. The way that we did it at the rescue was I would say, crate. I'd throw a couple, literally 2 pieces of kibble inside the crate. They go in to get it. I close the door. I walk away. I don't need to do anything else. And a lot of times they would just be like, okay, all right. They would lay down immediately. I think a lot of the times we think that we need to pay the dog for being calm. And the problem with that is when you have a reward event happening, the excitement and arousal go up. So I let calm be rewarded and reinforced by just leaving them alone. I'm like, just do your thing, right? So when my dog goes and lays down on the couch and chooses to be chill, the best way to reinforce that is to leave them alone, all right? So remember that you don't have to constantly pay calmness. Calmness is reinforcing in and of itself. And the act of the reward event when the dog is being calm can bring them out of that mindset, okay? So another thing to think about psychologically is that the reason that a dog does 99% of what they do out there is because of how they behave inside the house, how everything is structured. So if you go and you look up, Larry Crone has an awesome video about this, giving dogs too much freedom too soon. 99% of their behavior is based on arousal, how they feel, and what you have allowed them to do. That's scary because what we're addicted to is letting them do everything, letting them feel everything, and letting them feel it to a high level. We need to surrender that, okay? This is a world where everybody wants their dog to be a Disney prince or princess and for everybody to love them. And the problem with that is you have people that are overexposing and overstimulating their dogs to the point that they're then becoming reactive adults. You're not raising a puppy, you're raising a dog. Remember that. So when you're out on the walk and someone's walking up to your dog and they're reaching down to pet them, why would you do that? First of all, like back in my day, you didn't come close to someone with a dog. Like you respect that space. You need to say, hey, I'm sorry, they're in training, be nice about it, but create some space. Because if your dog doesn't see that you're willing and able to create space for them on the walk, then they're gonna start doing it themselves when they come into sexual, physical, psychological maturity. So there are a lot of times as puppies that this little tiny dog is like, oh, okay, all right, I'm uncomfortable, but I'm not gonna do anything about it. And you pet them and they're like, okay, all right. Everything's fine. I didn't get murdered, right? As they get older, they learn to do that themselves because they learn that you will not do it for them, okay? So this whole concept of dogs will typically do what they feel is the right solution. They'll typically behave according to their arousal level, and they'll typically do what you have allowed them to do in the past, okay? There are times that I walk into a client's home and I see a dog do something that is just completely unacceptable, like climb on the counter, like all 4 feet on the counter. And I look over and the owner is going, and I go, that's not funny. What if your dog eats a candle or some essential oils and they die? Like, that's a problem. It's not funny. It's really not. It's very, very dangerous. So again, things that we allow them to do will become things that they do consistently. All right. So remember that in relation to the crate and providing that proactive structure. Okay. Now I'm going to go through and I'm going to show you some things that you can do and what the actual visual of crate training looks like. And I'm going to introduce you to 2 of my dogs, Jack, and Wyatt. Hope you have enjoyed this video so far. Please, if you can like this video, if you don't mind sharing this video, and if you'd love to subscribe to us, we have all kinds of content based on leash reactivity, on separation anxiety, on dog-on-dog aggression in the home, e-collar training, structured walking, how to actually build behaviors with food. All of these topics are things that you can learn about by subscribing to the Allegiant Canine channel. And if you haven't yet, go onto our website at allegiantcanine.com and fill out a training questionnaire, which will immediately give you access to all of our catalog of hidden videos that you cannot see on YouTube. Okay? Love you guys. I'm going to move over to the location where I keep the crates so that you can actually see how I do this in the environment that the crate is set up. All right. So one of the things that I've been working with clients on a lot is working with the arousal level that suits the behavior that you're wanting to build. Okay. And a couple of different schools of thought on this are the sport dog system of wanting some high level, flashy, quick moving obedience where it's very reflexive. Here, there, here, there, here, there. The only problem with that is, especially for dogs like Wyatt, my healer, that's not going to serve my purpose of allowing him to be calm as he goes into the crate and calm as he comes out of the crate. All right. So this behavior, along with doorway control and place, I actually use the leash. Okay. The reason that I don't use solely motivation is that I don't want a reflexive explosion into the crate or a reflexive explosion out of the crate. I want it to be very boring, okay? So I'm gonna actually just connect a leash and I'm gonna show you how I do this to keep it very, very calm instead of having it just be this explosive thing. Because what usually happens is, as soon as I release Wyatt from his crate, he's bouncing up on me, he's hitting me in the nuts, he's scratching my stomach, it's insane, okay? And admittedly, it hasn't been that much of a problem in the past, but here at this place, it's brand new. He's trying to figure out his role here. There's a lot of question marks for him. So I really need to show him using the leash how to actually do that, okay? So when we talk about the leash, we're talking about limiting a little bit of freedom or being able to remove comfort for a moment. So using either pressure or prevention in order to calm down the arousal of the dog. That tends to net the best results. If I want a flashy sport dog, then I'm gonna probably instead use a lot more payment and that reflexive movement, okay? I don't need that here. In fact, I really don't want that here because I'm gonna show you here in just a second exactly what that looks like, and it is painful, it is frustrating for the dog and for myself, and the level of arousal goes through the roof, okay? So I'm gonna show you a dog that was trained through reflexive releases, and I'm gonna show you a dog that has been trained through pressure. and you're gonna see the difference between the two, okay? All right, so here is my bathroom space. This is my bathroom closet where I keep their crates. And there's my boys, there's Wyatt, my healer, and Jack, my Chihuahua. And we'll turn on the light here. So Jack has been trained through pressure on how to go into the crate and how to leave the crate. And he knows that if I open this door up a little bit, that he is not allowed to come out until I release him. No. And that's the correction. No. If he tries to come out, no. Good. Okay. Good job. Okay. Nice and calm. Yeah. You're so handsome. Hi, buddy. You're so handsome. All right, go back in. Good job. All right. Nice and calm. There's this crackhead. You could tell his arousal is just insane. I'm gonna just wait for a second because he's insane. Gentle. Okay. All right, boing, boing. He's biting. He's going nuts. He's jumping up on me. It's too much, okay? Off. Okay. So you see the difference between the two. Great. Now Wyatt will go in on command, especially if I throw a couple pieces of kibble inside there. He'll go in on command, but when he comes out, he's a whirling dervish, whereas Jack is just kind of like, okay, I'm free. It's just a general release, okay? So in pet dog training, this is more what I want than what you just saw. So I'm gonna show you. You all right? There you go. You gotta chew it, buddy. In pet dog training, this is what we want more than this, because we don't want him exploding out of the crate. We want just a general release, okay? So I'm gonna show you how to use the leash to get a little bit of a calmer dog as you're going into and out of the crate. All right, so I'm gonna use the same thing that I just did. I'm gonna use that for his crate. Notice I still have not said the command yet. Great. Free. Nice and calm. No jumping. Very nice. Great. All I'm doing is changing the positioning of my body and the angle of the leash. I can use a little pressure if I need to. Great. Good. Free. Free. I want it to be a little bit slower than that. Let's go. Great. Okay, let's go. Good. That was good, buddy. Very nice. Very nice. All right, one more time. Great. Okay, good job. Very nice, Bob. Sit. Good. Good job. Yes, you're so handsome. Great. Okay, let's go. Good job. No. Good. Great. Good boy. A couple final tips as you're wrapping up the training of the place behavior is that when you're using pressure, you're using the leash, you're leading the dog, don't face the dog, okay? What that typically does is when you have a leash in your hand, it implies that you're leading, which means that you're faced away, you're moving forward, okay? It's the same concept that I use when I'm doing turnabouts to teach the dog to follow me. I'm not looking back at the dog saying, come on, come on. That immediately is gonna cause the dog to put the brakes on and they're gonna resist the pressure of the leash, okay? If all I do is say, let's go, and I start to walk toward the crate, and right as I'm at the crate opening, I say crate, and I give a little bit of leash pressure on the way into the crate, turned away from the dog, they're gonna resist, or they're going to lean into the pressure a little bit and go, okay, got it, I'm gonna go ahead and go in there. If you decide that instead you're gonna turn back around to the dog and say, crate, and you're gonna turn back to them and square your body off to them like this, you're gonna have a problem because you're going to end up creating a little bit of a pushback, right? You're gonna create the opposition reflex. So don't do that. Wardrobe change. So I just watched the rest of this video and I'm pretty pleased with it. I wanted to make sure and get it posted today, so I didn't do as much editing and content review as I necessarily wanted to. But that, I think, will answer most of the questions that I saw come up online. What I wanted to cap it all off with is that I don't crate my dogs all the time, especially if I'm at home. I'm happy to have them out because I'm able to teach a dog to just be okay being away from me and not in the crate. So for example, right now, I don't know if you can see his pointy little ears over there, but Wyatt is laying on a memory foam mattress and he's completely content right now. So he's in place right now, which means that when I send him to place, it means that he's not allowed to get up until I say his release word, which is free. All right. So when I say free, he's allowed to get up. I could say free, 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 free right here, and he's not listening to it. But if I go, Wyatt, free, nice. He's allowed to come over here. Good man. Good job, buddy. Nice and calm. Good job. And then the next video I'll probably release is how to teach the dog the next behavior, which is very similar to crate, and that is place. Nice. Okay? Even to the point where you don't even have to use a command, apparently. So I'm over here, I'm eating some popcorn, like I'm just chilling out right now. And as I'm reviewing video, every once in a while, I'll just walk over and I'll take a small handful of whatever I've got here and I'll just plop it down right there. Just want to associate that. So anyway, just to review everything, don't start shouting crate at your dog and expecting that they're just going to know that that's what it means. Especially don't repeat yourself. Use the leash to your advantage. Send the dog a couple of times with food and pressure, then just pressure, and then no pressure at all. Just walk over to the crate and then remove the leash and use food, and then don't use either one. So if you're able to do this with the tool and the treats, with the tools, no. If you're able to do this with the tool and the treats, with the tools or the treats or nothing at all, then you're going to be in really good shape. But that's the order that you should go in, is use something that they understand first, layer in the pressure with the leash, face away from the dog, say the command one time, and then lead them to the conclusion. All right? As you go, you'll realize I don't need to help you as much. I don't need to lead you as much. I don't need to pressure you as much. And you should be able to then fade out that leash pressure, okay? If the dog turns and runs the other way, pop. I give a leash pop. So that allows me to actually fade that pressure out completely, and the dog realizes that this command is not optional, all right? That is how you eventually fade out leash pressure, is through a leash pop, okay? I didn't have to do that today, which is awesome. I'm super grateful for that. I almost never have to do that. It's a very rare thing for me to have to do, but I'm willing to do it. And all the dogs that I train know that very quickly. I get in, I get out, I give the correction, and then we're done, okay? So don't be afraid to give a little leash pop now and then, but don't lead with it, all right? If you don't have a relationship that's conducive and makes sense for you to correct the dog, then it's probably not gonna help you any, okay? So just to review, crate your dog anytime that they cannot be directly supervised. Use the crate to reduce things like separation anxiety, resource guarding, patrolling the house. I already said separation anxiety. Destructive behaviors. All these things are behaviors that can be prevented if you are able to acclimate the dog to a crate. It also can save you thousands and thousands of dollars in damages and in boarding if you're able to crate the dog during times that they're not directly supervised or when you go away. Larry Crone always says, crate the dog until they're 1 at night and until they're 2 while you're gone. And I agree with that, with one additional thing, all right? If you don't trust that dog 100% inside your home and they're not being directly supervised, where is your dog right now, okay? Don't create premeditated resentment by having uncommunicated expectations, all right? Because when you don't communicate those expectations to your dog by setting up that proactive structure, guess what? You need to take a rolled up newspaper, you need to get it nice and firm in your hand, and you need to whack yourself on the head with it because that's your fault, okay? Don't set yourself up for that kind of stuff, all right? And don't take it out on your dog, okay? Love you guys, whether you're with Murray County Animal Services, Williamson County Animal Services, a Freedom Journey Animal Rescue, rural animal rescue effort. We have so many different amazing rescue partners. I hope that this is beneficial for you so that you can go back and really start to kind of practice some prevention steps so that you can actually have a platform for training. Because the biggest resource outside of you yourself is freedom. And the more freedom that you give your dog before they're actually ready for it, the more rehearsal of bad behaviors that you're gonna see. Okay, guys? I know that this video is a little bit long. Next time I'm gonna plan it out a little bit better so it's not gonna be as long. But if you could possibly go on, like, share, subscribe, all the things, that would be great. If you have any questions for us at Allegiant Canine, go onto our website at allegiantcanine.com and fill out a training questionnaire where you will immediately receive access to all of our hidden videos that are not on YouTube, and also all of our videos that are on YouTube, but in the proper order that you need to go through the modules to train your dog off leash completely, okay? Love you guys very much. Again, Matt Burnett with Allegiant Canine. I'm about to go to the pool, and when I do, guess what? This guy's going in the crate. Love you guys. Talk to you soon.